The past is gone, the future is yet to come. It's now, right now. The present is here, the future is near, but it's right now, you know.
Hello, this is NOWMAN, and all that exists is right now. I am the superhero of the present moment, and it is my primary mission to remind everyone that I come in contact with that all that exists is now. It's also my mission to make the world a better place, and we need to do that together. This show has a lot of spontaneity because the present moment is always spontaneous. The NOWMAN Radio Show is visionary in its focus. And speaking of visionary, we have a true visionary on this program who created what's called Ithaca Dollars. But before we get to that, I do want to read from my book, The Universe According To NOWMAN. This is an excerpt from the segment, Money. You can be happy with it. You can be happy without it. You can be miserable with it or without it. Money doesn't create happiness, okay, so we know that is true. We also can say we have come to the conclusion that it can seem to add to one's already existing happiness somehow, or at least pay bills. Now is the present moment to enjoy life and live regardless of the amount of money in your bank account or your wallet, and the same can be said of your investment accounts and even your mattresses, in the event you've started stashing your money there. Question: do you think we will ever get to a point where we don't really need money anymore? Well, I think we have to get to the point where there isn't greed first, and then we'll probably still have the currency of the present moment. Which leads me up to the introduction of Paul Glover. He is the founder of Ithaca Hours, which is a paper currency that circulated in the community of Ithaca, New York. About 30,000 people. Millions of Ithaca Dollars have circulated since 1991. He's the author of 6 books on grassroots economies. He's the former professor of urban studies at Temple University, founder of 18 organizations and campaigns, including Citizens Planners of Los Angeles, Health Democracy, Philadelphia Orchard Project, POP, and the League of Uninsured Voters, LOVE. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody listening, this is Paul Glover on the NOWMAN Radio Show.
Welcome to you, too. It's an honor to be invited. Thank you to Autumn and all of the Time Bangs, Alex Arkin, Eco Village for sponsoring my visit out here. I've enjoyed revisiting LA for the first time in 23 years. I see some good differences since last I was here, and I lived here from 80 to 85. The title of this talk is Everything You Need to Know About Local Currency. That's a tall order. I visit you from a time before email, before the World Wide Web. And the local currency started in Ithaca, began without the benefit of those technologies. But at the same time, what you are doing is giving dignity to labor, giving dignity to skills, time, tools, and talent, which are not recognized necessarily by the formal economy. You are honoring yourselves as neighbors. But I would say that poverty is not a lack of dollars, but a lack of networks. And this city, as all cities, are full of hundreds and thousands of networks, religious, ethnic, athletic, and so forth, which ostensibly are a basis of trust. On that basis of trust, you can have a currency, you can have your own monetary system, whether it is paper or electronic or a combination of these. You have these. So we don't have a budget problem strictly. We have an imagination problem. if we can imagine a better economy, if we can imagine ourselves as a powerful part of this economy, then we can take control of this economy and make it work for us. The economy should be fun. It should not be a dismal treadmill that makes us run faster and faster and faster, and more of us fall off. We should be able to have a good time. We should be able to have good housing, good food, good health care, without terrific stress. This is the aim of an economy, and to be able to pass that kind of an economy to the next generations. Children, beautiful children by the millions, deserve an economy, deserve a city as beautiful as they are. Life should become easier rather than more difficult. So in Ithaca, New York, in 1991, before email and before the World Wide Web, it occurred to me that if we would have enough money in Ithaca, we'd have to print it ourselves. So I went to my computer. I have a background in marketing, a background in city management, and a background in arrogance. It was not difficult. I haven't been a graphic artist and a journalist, and it has not been difficult to imagine creating money. So I went to my computer, I designed money. Money denominated in hours, not dollars, but hours, because we did not have gold. We in Ithaca did not have piles of gold in our vaults or basements. We had time. We had tools. We had talent and skills. We could trade this with each other. So I designed paper money denominated in hours. I'll pass around some samples of this. I asked you to return it because it is real money. And 1 hour was denominated as 1 hour of basic labor, or $10, which at the time, 20 years ago, doubled the minimum wage in the Ithaca area. At the same time, professionals were entitled to charge multiple Ithaca hours per hour, but in the spirit of equity, in the spirit of becoming friends and lovers and political allies, becoming members of the same community, a lot of professionals lower their hourly rate voluntarily to meet the capability of the lowest income people to pay. A cultural shift away from becoming winners and losers to becoming members of a community, a voluntary process. So the paper money began to circulate in 1991, and among primarily individuals who did child care, home-baked cooking, who had bookkeeping skills, or whatever they were able to do in their home. But increasingly, over the years, businesses, 500 businesses, not only thousands of individuals, but 500 businesses, including a bank, which took Ithaca hours for the full price of all bank fees and part of loan repayment. The hospital for part of the fees. Movie theaters, bowling alleys, health clubs, restaurants, you name it, everything. Our directory, called Our Town, H-O-U-R Town, published 6 times a year, had more categories than the Yellow Pages. And listed the thousands of ways you could spend this cash money. So we began to make loans of this money without charging interest. That is the fundamental monetary revolution, because we beat the banks. The banks are charging whatever interest, but we provided loans interest-free up to $30,000. Wow. That loan was made, in fact, to a bank which was rebuilding new headquarters, and they paid their contractors 5% in local currency. We made grants to over 100 community organizations, many of which have lost state or federal grants income. We made these grants to local organizations. About 75 farmers market vendors accepted this money. The only thing you couldn't buy with this money at a certain point was health insurance. So I started a health insurance co-op. People paid $100 per year for Ithaca Dollars, valued at $10 per hour, to be members of a co-op that began paying them in exchange for the $100 nothing. They got discounts with 130 Ithaca area health providers, but gradually, incrementally, we built it such that they were covered for 12 categories of common emergencies like broken bones, ambulance rides, emergency stitches, and problems, anywhere in the world, to specified maximum amounts for $100 a year. We were proving that you didn't need HMOs. We were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We had members in 46 states, including California. We were featured in the Audrey Reader. The state of New York stepped in and said, you can't do that, and we said, go to hell. This is how law is made, really. I could talk about that. I've written a book titled How to Take Power, among the several books I've written. And I emphasize in there that we take power by taking power, by saying we are the authorities. That we decide what the economy does and for whom. When the economy does not work for us, we take control of the economy. So currency is one of several component parts of taking control of an economy. Now, time dollars, I've talked with Edgar Kahn over the years about bringing time dollars and local paper money together. And I have an enormous respect for time dollars. I have a lot to learn, in fact, about the computer-based credit system. There are assets, there are drawbacks, there are ways to compare and contrast both systems. And I would like to merge them so that they fit together, so that the benefits of each are available to all. They're both denominated in hours. Hours is a basis of value. That is to say, this is the new gold standard. Labor is the new gold standard. If you took all of the gold ever produced by human beings, extracted, you would create a cube of gold 60 feet on a side. A cube of gold 60 feet on the side is not a sufficient gold standard on a planet with 7 billion human beings. We cannot transact all the needs of 7 billion human beings with a cube of gold 60 feet on the side. Each one of us might get a fingernail of gold, if that. And so we need a basis of value for transaction among 7 billion human beings, which is based on our capability as human beings, and that is the hour of labor, and that is something we have in common with time dollars. So, I have been exploring how we can connect these systems because Ithaca hours have been able to be transacted by, as I said, 500 local businesses in the for-profit sector. Restaurants, movie theaters, bowling alleys, health clubs, you name it, anything at all. While time dollars are more based on a voluntary exchange of voluntary services. And I like paper money because it is highly dramatic. That is to say, when we started to issue paper money NOWMAN even hours, the media went nuts. Because they could show pictures of it. And they could show pictures not only of the money, but of people transacting the money all over town. And that's an essential part of promoting a local currency, that is to get the buzz going. And nothing got the buzz going like having a tangible tool of trade. So a time dollar system, a time banking system, can likewise, I believe, incorporate on a systematic basis a paper currency. It would have to be done in a way which matched the legal circumstances by which time dollars have tax exemption. We did not have tax exemption. We didn't care. We were an unassociated we were a bunch of people without any incorporation. We just created money and traded it with each other. The IRS, the FBI, the Secret Service, the Treasury Department, and the Federal Reserve Board all were contacted by the media. Is this legal? And none of these agencies could find a law specifically against printing ours as money. So they said, well, we can't find a law specifically against printing ours as money. And I mentioned the other night when I spoke with some folks that the Wall Street Journal called me up and they were doing a story. Because, in fact, there were several thousand stories written about Ithaca Dollars. I did 1, 2, 3 media interviews a day. And the Wall Street Journal said, is this legal? And I said, yeah, it's legal. I did not say, oh, I don't know, maybe not, or who knows, or geez, I'm sorry, I'm scared to hear you ask the question. I said, yeah, it's legal, yeah. And so the headline in the Wall Street Journal was, communities print local and legal currencies, which would intimidate any bureaucrat. So, well, if the Wall Street Journal says it. So it was a lot of fun. You know, and fun is an important part of the economy, as I said before. I would like to see this become a national basis of transaction. Ours as money. It is our value as workers, as people who create goods and services. Tremendous creativity that we all have, that we would love to share. The beauty of what we create and offer, goods and services, could be available in a marketplace far more vast than the formal economy. Instead of looking in the classified as who will hire me so I can live, so I can pay my rent, who will hire me so I can pay my utilities, who will hire me so I can send my kids to college, who will hire me so I can pay for food, who will hire me so I can pay for the car. We create our own economy, gradually and increasingly. We decrease our dependence on these systems. I call this a mutual enterprise economy. It is not bloodthirsty capitalism, and it is not bleeding heart liberalism. It says we bring to the marketplace a real place where we become friends and lovers and political allies, a real geographic place, whether it is Altadena, Pasadena, or any of the places where the time banking system is established. We bring our greatest capabilities to this place, and we based on hours of labor and its equivalent in goods and services, however we define that. I hope I mentioned that the Ithaca hour was denominated at 1 hour of basic labor or $10, which 20 years ago was double the minimum wage. We doubled the minimum wage in Ithaca for basic services, for basic goods. And so to imagine the hour as a new gold standard, the hour as a new basis of exchange throughout our nation and throughout our world. I've designed a prototype of a United States hour. This is the height of arrogance. But all social change, every bit of social change has come from that arrogance. The end of slavery, starting the nation, the 8-hour workday, votes for women, social security, civil rights, absolutely everything that we presume is our right as Americans and has advanced our society came from a direct confrontation with laws which no longer serve. These laws were overthrown. Legislatures did not wake up one morning and say, slavery just seems so unfair. Or women, really, they're smart and they should vote. Or working people to death at 16 hours a day is perhaps inhuman. No. These changes happened, every one of them, when people became dangerously angry. I'm sorry to say. And that is a process history has insisted over the generations. It is essential for creating a fair and just, reasonable society. Local currency is a component of a much larger process by which we assert our dignity as human beings, our control of the economy. Who controls the land, the law, and the money in our current economy? Banks. Do banks exist primarily to keep our money safe?
No.
They make money.
Ooh. Do mortgage companies exist primarily to provide us housing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do insurance companies exist primarily to give us peace of mind? Does the electric company exist primarily to brighten our lives? Does the gas company exist primarily to keep us warm? Does the grocery store exist primarily to nourish us? Do schools exist primarily to excite people about learning? And to prepare us to be effective citizens of a creative and beautiful economy? Does the government exist primarily to distribute resources equitably and to moderate inequalities?
No.
Nope.
No, no, and no.
I wish somebody would say yes. But unfortunately not. So does the news media exist primarily to prepare us to be informed citizens?
Which news media?
Exactly.
Oh,
Democracy now.
KPFK.
Yeah.
Right. So these institutions exist primarily to keep themselves alive and to aggrandize their power and authority to the exclusion of the rest of us. And therefore it is necessary, it seems to me, to take control again over the economy. And you guys, who are part of the time banking system, are an essential first component of that. The land, the law, and the money. I wrote a book titled How to Take Power. Because I've been arrogant a long time. And the idea is that Wherever an institution does not serve us, we need to take control of it. And that every institution has a point of vulnerability. I mentioned this the other night. Every institution has a point of vulnerability, no matter how gigantic it may seem, no matter how impenetrable it may seem. We can find that point of vulnerability and turn the switch, and it deflates. And we become powerful. I've done this repeatedly. Made a lot of enemies, but the good kind of enemies. Kind of enemies who are enemies of our best interests, of our survival. And you can do this without making personal enemies. It's nicer to be nice. It really is nicer to be nice. But when we are being shoved against the wall, we had to fight back. And fighting back within the norms of political discourse and electoral process is quite often not sufficient. And so you need to go for the gut. And they have a gut, and it is vulnerable. At any rate, I think the most challenging thing I might suggest to you tonight is that we need to transition beyond the middle class idea. We need to get off the treadmill to the maximum extent we can. Time banking is a powerful component of that process. We need to control our housing, our food, our health care. And we will face opposition to that change. We need to transition beyond the middle class ideal to what I call the mutual class ideal. The mutual class thrives by creating cooperatarian base for food and fuel and housing and health. We get off of the corporate treadmill. A gigantic process, an inevitable process, because the children and grandchildren will not have an easy way of life unless we do. Those of us who are facing old age will not have an easy old age. Those of us who are already old, hey, we've got the best of everything. I come to this town and I pay like 25 cents to take a train ride. Wow, this is great. We boomers had the best of everything. We inherited the best of everything.
We created it.
Huh?
We created it.
Say that again. How do you mean that?
We created tie-dye, we created bell-bottoms, we created great music, great art, love beads, flower power.
Yes, we're terrific. A big round of applause for the boomers. Okay. All right, and now, of course, the difficulty with we needed to create co-ops that would entitle our children and grandchildren to live a life as easy. In 1970, the minimum wage was $1.92. On that, you could buy
165.
Huh?
165 and 145. Yeah.
1970? Out here, it might have been terrible. It might have been worse.
1970, I came here and earned 165 an hour.
Really? Out here it was worse. I don't know. I don't understand. I remember it being $1.92 in 1970. And if it were different out here, I'll give you credit for that.
Maybe because you pulled rubber.
No. No, I had a good job. I was paid $2.56 an hour. And with a minimum wage in 1970, you could buy 6 gallons of gasoline. You could buy...
Egg for 25 cents a dozen.
Yeah.
Gasoline 23 cents.
Yes.
Rent 85, 75 a month.
Yes.
You got a good memory.
Yes, good old days. Bread, 15 cents a loaf. Terrible bread, but it was 15 cents a loaf.
99 cents for 3 movies in Hollywood.
Oh, 29 oh my gosh, are you, how, I won't ask you how old you are, but you might be older than
I agree to that.
Huh?
I agree to that.
Okay. At any rate, the dollar was at its peak of power in 1970 and has declined ever since. And so the society and the economy, the latest generation, the millennials, and their children are inheriting, it's more and more difficult. In 1992, I wrote an article. I said, I think this country is being deliberately converted into a third world nation.
Yeah.
I said a lot of unpopular things. I was one of them. And I said this in Ithaca to my best friend, my boomer friends. I was put on the ballot in 2003 as the candidate for mayor of Ithaca, New York, on the Green Party line. And I said, well, we need to get rid of our cars and our flush toilets. I got 500 votes. But that was 12%, unfortunately. So my best friends realized. So I was because I started the Ithaca Hours program in the Ithaca Health Alliance. I was lifted up on shoulders. I was carried around town. I was a big man on campus. But then when I started to say we need to really get rid of our cars and our flush toilets, and all of Ithaca needs to become an intentional community on behalf of the children and grandchildren. Then the people who had lifted me on their shoulders put me down, back on the ground. I said, well, that's very nice. So that is the nature of leadership. So to move beyond the middle class to the mutual class, the burden of becoming middle class is crushing to the next generation. A few will reach that. They will reach that by being part of the apparatus which helps crush their peers. This is very hard to face. We're all on a treadmill. We have to pay the mortgage or the rent. We have to pay the car. We have to pay utilities, college education. These are difficult challenges we are connected to, many of us. And to begin to get off of that, we join time banks. We help each other to make life easier rather than more difficult. We decrease our dependence on the institutions which have no motivation but increased numbers of profit. We decrease our dependence on institutions which do not care about what becomes of us, and which in many cases are no longer even owned by United States entities, which have no national loyalty, which have no local loyalty. If you look on NASDAQ.com, you see who owns the insurance companies, who owns the computer companies, who owns. These are global investors who do not care at all about what becomes of us, whose only interest is bigger numbers. Bigger numbers that translate into bigger houses for themselves, bigger yachts for themselves. I don't know. It's a crazy system, and a lot of you are even more familiar with it than I am. So, I think that when we can connect with time banks, connect with local currencies, we're taking control of money. We need to take control of land. We need to take control of law. We need to become arrogant, all of us. We need to understand that we are not subjects, but we are powerful when we get together. That when we do this, we are the gold and the silver. We are the gold and the silver. And we are the treasury, and we are the treasure. So So I would invite your comments and questions and conversation.
Wow, that was some pretty amazing stuff. Sustainability is the focus of much of this program because we do need to find sustainable solutions to the many problems that are facing us on this Earth planet, and we must do it together. If you have any comments or questions, not only about this program, but any ideas for future shows on the NOWMAN Radio Show, please email me at nowmanrightnow1999@gmail.com. That's NOWMANRIGHTNOW 1999@gmail.com. I'd like to thank the Armory Center for the Arts in Pasadena for sponsoring the program. Also, Arroyo Seco Time Bank, Autumn, and all the great people there, and especially Mr. Paul Glover for allowing this content to be shared with you in this program. You can learn more about Paul Glover at paulglover.org. I do have a book, What's Inside the Mind of NOWMAN. It's called The Universe According To NOWMAN, and you can find that on Amazon.com. Also, find me on the official page of Facebook, the NOWMAN Official, and also the NOWMAN 1999 YouTube channel. Until next time, this is NOWMAN, and always remember, all that exists is right now.